Hey everyone, Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret here. Well, at the time of this recording, it's Sunday night, Extreme Rules has just wrapped up, and I'm sitting here with me notes to talk to you about my gut reactions, about what happened at the pay-per-view, give you my thoughts on it, kind of like what I did last month at WrestleMania. Now, why are you waiting 4 days to hear about this? Well, much like the WrestleMania review, I don't want to screw up my format. So here we go. Once again, I just want to say that I don't want to speculate too much about the future for any of the storylines or wrestlers. Just want to focus on what happened at this pay-per-view and give you my first take on it. So here we go. The kickoff match, Neville versus Bad News Barrett. Obviously, Barrett was supposed to be fighting Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title tonight, but Daniel Bryan was deemed medically unclear to compete, so Neville was the replacement. It was a very exciting match, despite the fact there was no real story to it because of this last-minute change. It was a very fast-paced, exciting match. Neville doing what he does best. I don't usually like guys who are very reliant on high spots and kind of flippy spots, but I mean, Neville is something else. He does stuff that I never would have imagined doing. The fact that he changed direction mid-plancha part of through the match was amazing to watch, and that wasn't even the most stellar spot of the night. The one thing that I think is going to stick with me as something that sticks in my craw about this match, the fact that it was in a network exclusive match and they cut to a commercial to talk about the network. Why they would have a commercial mid-match for this pre-show, I have no idea. I think that was really weird decision making, and that I think people are going to remember. They're going to remember that more than the match itself. Be that as it may, though, still a fun match. Neville winning, the fact that he kicked out of Barrett's two big signature moves and then still won is going to be huge for him. I mean, obviously he hasn't been winning all his matches, but he doesn't have to, because the way he's been losing, it's still been very convincing. So I think, in the short term, this win is going to be huge for Neville, and hopefully it will carry over in the long run. Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper in the Chicago Street Fight. Since this match was broken up into two segments, I'm just going to lump it all together into one review. It was a very fun match between the two guys. These guys have wrestled before in CZW, so they know the style very well. Obviously, they know each other very well. So it was a lot of fun to see that. Now, I feel like, is it me, or I feel like with these weapons matches, WWE is kind of hamstrung in the variety of weapons that they have now. In this match, it was just chairs and kendo sticks, and I feel like that was it. I don't know what else there was. And of course, then later in the show, there were tables involved, but that was about it. I feel like back about a decade ago, even that far back, there was a much more variety of the kind of weapons that you saw in WWE shows. But now it feels so homogenized, and you have this very limited amount of weapons to choose from. That's beside the point. I thought it was very fun match, like I said. Great job to Dean Ambrose for winning his first pay-per-view match since the Shield broke up. Good for him. So again, very good match. Sheamus Ziggler in the Kiss Me Arse match. I like these two wrestlers, but I absolutely hate this stipulation. There's a reason they haven't done it very often. I think last time they did it was SummerSlam '99, Rock and Billy Gunn. There's a reason they don't do it, because it's very awkward. And it's, to me, the fact they brought this back after so long, it's so dated, it's so Attitude Era, it's such this whole vibe of gay panic, the whole thing like, oh my god, the loser's gonna have to kiss the other guy's butt, that's so crazy, it's so I hate that so much. It doesn't really fit Sheamus's gimmick. I don't know why. I mean, he's the new bully, he's a heel. By the way, I love the fact that he's a heel now, because he was super stale as a face, so it's a good move that he's a heel, but I don't know how this fit as a gimmick exactly. But again, it was a very good match. These two work really well together. They made a chin lock look devastating. That was one of the better spots of the match. A simple, what anyone else would have considered a rest hold. These guys just gave it their all in selling this chin lock. I thought it was pretty cool. Very fun match. Ziggler winning was, it was not, I guess it was not expected, but ultimately didn't matter, because Sheamus, knocked him out, did the swerve, and then put Ziggler's face in his own butt, which created a nice kind of gay panic rape combo. It was very uncomfortable to watch in that respect. But other than that, other than the uncomfortable ending, it was a very good match. Tag Team Championship match. The New Day versus Kidd and Cesaro. All I can say is what a shame it would have been if this match were relegated to the kickoff like it was planned. They certainly benefited from Daniel Bryan's injury because those two matches obviously switched places, and look where it got. I mean, this match, I can say right now, easily the match of the night. No one expected this, I don't think, to be this good, but I think the way the tag team situation is now, it's full of young guys who are super athletic and quick. So you get the Usos, you got Kidd and Cesaro, you got the New Day. You know, I'm not saying we're back to a golden age of tag teams, because that's far from that, but the tag teams we have, for the most part, are very exciting to watch, and this match, I think, kind of proved it. So, you know, a very fast-paced, fun match to watch. Kidd and Cesaro, this, you know, they're in the best position now they've been in a long time. This is the best thing that they could be going for right now. And the New Day is really fun. It's funny to watch because I feel like their gimmick is what Bo Dallas was like when he was in NXT, and then how it should have been when he transferred over to the main roster. Someone who is outwardly trying to be a good guy, and then the fans can see right through it and just hate on him, but they don't seem to notice, or they don't seem to care, because they're still very positive and they still want to be good guys, and you know, it's not being received that way. I think it's hilarious. I think this win and having the championships is going to go a long way toward building momentum toward the eventual full-fledged heel turn. I don't know if they're ever going to actually be dastardly outwardly, or I don't think they're ever going to hate the fans in character, but I think that what they're doing right now is great. Rusev and Cena, the Russian Chain US Championship match. This is the third pay-per-view match they've had in a row now, with a fourth on the way. And I think what's really cool and telling about these guys and how good they are in the ring is that each of these matches they've had, none of them have been the same. They've all been unique and interesting and cool to watch. You know, other than that, the other thing I'm going to say is, when Cena won, the crowd was overwhelmingly, you know, in favor of him. They popped big for him winning. And of course, but he had the mixed reactions when he came out. So what does this mean? And the fact that he won them over in Chicago, in Smarktown, USA, I think is pretty amazing. But it also proves to me that I think that where he is at in his career now is that people will boo him and give him mixed reactions in his introductions just out of habit, out of routine. People will think, well, this is part of the show now. We're not going to question why. It doesn't make any sense, because at the end we're cheering for him anyway. So it's just part of the show now to boo him when he comes out. It's kind of like when Angle was a face, but they were still chanting "You suck" to his theme, but they still liked him. It was just really weird. And I think that's the same thing happening now with Cena. And I'm going to mention this later in the show, in this review, but I think it's proven now. I think Cena has, you know, he's atoned for his sins, and I think he's won over a lot of the crowd in the most part. I think people understand that he's not a bad wrestler, that they understand he's a really great guy, has a really great character on and off screen, and so I think that people are just booing him because they think it's part of the show. But other than that, you know, I think it's a bit of a nitpick, but I think, you know, this match was great, and I look forward to see what happens next month. Divas match, Nikki Bella and Naomi. Now, the whole crux of the Give Divas a Chance movement that started a few months ago was to not only have the women get more airtime and more time in their matches, which this match certainly did. It was a very properly timed competitive match, but also the characters are better developed. Give us a reason to care about these women. Now, during the build, and especially during the show itself, I got a very good sense of why Naomi was fighting, why she had turned heel, and why she wanted the title so bad. But the problem is, she was going against another heel in Nikki Bella. Now, I know this thing leaked out recently from this former writer who says that allegedly the creative team doesn't really look at the women in terms of face and heel, that they're all equally catty and mentally unstable. I think it's just a bad excuse for lazy writing, which has been the case in the Divas division for a long time. But I think they're finally turning a corner, and I think that, because there are always faces and heels. You know, you can't not have faces and heels in women's wrestling or otherwise. The mind naturally attracts to one or the other when they look at a certain wrestler. And, you know, Naomi obviously is a heel, but she became a de facto face in the match because she was going against a more established heel in Nikki Bella. Other than that little nitpick, I think it was a fine competitive match. I think it was great. It showcased the Divas the way people want them to be showcased, and otherwise it was a good match. I just hope they do a better job in figuring out who faces and heels are in the future. Big Show versus Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. The feud that refuses to die. You know, we have seen a lot of boring, stretched out feuds that we all hated to see over the years, but I can't think of any others other than this one where one of the participants had the words, "Please retire," chanted at them, which was the case with Big Show in this. So I think it's kind of embarrassing for all parties involved. I think a lot of people were not looking forward to this match. I think they had very low expectations, but I gotta say, this was a really good match. Like, you know, I think it played to both their strengths really well. Compared to like TLC this past December, Big Show versus Eric Rowan, that was a crappy match because it really exposed the limitations these two have. Because they're both big hosses, and usually hoss versus hoss does not work well together. But you've got a guy who's more athletic like Roman Reigns, they can play off each other better, and I think this match really showed it. Big Show, you know, as long as he's been around and people want him to retire, I think he definitely he pulled his weight in this. And the thing with Roman Reigns, I've said before how bad I felt for him at WrestleMania, but I think he's been on this road to redemption now. I think they had to kind of build him back up again to win him over in the eyes of the fans. And I think he definitely pulled his weight in this match. Reigns got over in Chicago. I mean, who would have ever seen that coming? It's the same thing I said before about Cena. He was booed and he was kind of given this, you know, lukewarm kind of reception when he came out, but by the end he totally won them over. Even though they stole the finish from Cena Wyatt last year, their last man standing match. But that's beside the point. I think it was a very fun match. Sick bump by Reigns into the tables. Big props to Big Show for the top rope Beal. When's the last time you ever saw that happen with him? You know, it was a really fun match to watch with these two, you know, guys. One who's a big guy and one who's a smaller big guy, but they worked together really well. I think this is a great first step in the road to redemption for Roman Reigns. But for the love of God, no more Big Show Roman Reigns matches. Main event time, Orton versus Rollins in a cage for the title. Now, let me just say these guys, they wrestled great tonight, they wrestled great at WrestleMania, and they're probably going to have one more match at least next month. So this is a good match in the feud they're having. They continue to impress, and they continue to do these innovative, cool little moves you haven't seen before, like they did tonight in the cage. The thing with Kane being involved in the finish, I think that was very predictable, that Kane was going to be involved, otherwise why would he be there? But they added a wrinkle I didn't expect. See, I just expected what was going to happen was Kane was just going to turn on Orton and say, "Oh, fooled you, we were in cahoots the whole time, there was never any tension between me and Rollins." But they added a wrinkle to that, made it very interesting, the fact that he's still conflicted, and he still has heat with Rollins, and he attacked him, but ultimately he knows who's signing his checks, and so he was still trying to help Rollins ultimately. So I think it was kind of cool they added that to it. I think it made the finish a little more easier to go down, let's just say. And the upside to the whole finish is Kane was kind of involved, but he wasn't directly involved with the final moments, and he wasn't directly responsible for Rollins winning, which I think was nice. I think if Kane had directly cheated to help Rollins win, that wouldn't have been as satisfying an ending. So I think what they did, the way they booked it, was much better. You know, the RKO rule is really confusing. I think the announcers couldn't keep it straight. I don't know if that was part of the storyline or not for them to argue over it the way they did, but other than that, you know, I think it was still a really cool match, a really fun main event. And again, Kane's turn was predictable, but they did things to it that didn't make it seem so one-dimensional, so that was good. I give this pay-per-view an overall grade of a B. I mean, obviously it's not going to match the epicness of last month's WrestleMania, but you know, obviously that's a very tall order, but it was a very good follow-up from what happened last month, and it's a good setup to what will lie ahead in the future. Let me know what you thought of this pay-per-view if you watched it. Be sure to post in the comments section below about your thoughts. Be sure to thumbs up this video, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, and buy the t-shirt. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.
Might be a battle, might not turn out okay. You know you look so Seattle, but you feel